Alrighty guys, this is our final video of how to make a red blood cell in Blender. So in this part of the tutorial, I'll be going over lighting. Now let's first take a look at the bottom left window here. This is our recently generated, our recently rendered image of our red blood cell. Notice how right now it looks like a big red blob. The biconcave feature is actually quite hard to see in this. Now let's compare this to the image I rendered earlier and showed you. So I'll put this up to compare side by side. Notice how our biconcave feature is more visible here, and the color is much lighter in this, right? And there's a shadow. So this is because we have a light source coming in from this direction, generating all these effects. The other thing is our white background. So by the end of this tutorial, you will not only be able to do some basic lighting for our object, but also generate a nice background to contrast our model here. Right now it's just dull grays across here, right? It's not a lot of contrast to make our object stand out. Put a white one in, this one stands out. Okay, let's get started with our lighting. What we're going to do first is change from our compositing view to the default view. So if you remember from our last video, let's go left click this menu and select default. So we're going to our view that we've been working with most of the time. Just going to zoom out and show you this whole view. So where's our light source? What we do is we select this circle over here. So we right click to select. There we go. This object is called our lamp. Now the next step is to go to the horizontal bar with all these icons and select the yellow icon called data. Once you find it, please left click. Then you'll be greeted with all these other options down below. Under lamp, we get another bar with the options point, sun, spot, hemi, and area. They are all different lighting options we can choose from. You can experiment with which lighting option you prefer, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we will select sun. Upon clicking sun, you will see a dotted line coming from the light source. This shows the direction of where the light is coming from. If you wanted to change the position of our light source, we have to first make sure our light source is selected and then press G to move our object. So we can move it any way we want. So let's say over here. Next, we have an issue. That issue is, look at the direction of our light source. It is not pointing towards our object. So what we can do is we have to rotate this light source to be facing our object. And remember the hotkey for that? It is R for rotate. So we press that and we move our mouse towards our object, and look at that. It is facing our object now. Left click to confirm. And there we go. Our light source is now facing our object. So now let's see if our object has been properly illuminated. And this is done by rendering. So remember, camera icon and click render or the hotkey F12. Either one works. So now Blender is applying this new set of information that we have given it, which is the lighting, and processing this new image. And there we go. You have successfully illuminated your object. Notice how the biconcave feature is more visible and there's a bit of shadow in our picture. Well done. If you want to experiment which direction the light comes from, what you can do is press escape. And this also goes for other modifications you make and render. So once you've rendered it and you want to edit it again, to get back to our default view, we just hit escape. So now we're back to our default view. Now notice in the rendered image, my picture wasn't really in the center. And this is because it wasn't in the center of the camera. So this is another very important thing to keep in mind. So next to our light source, we have this object here. If we right click, this is called our camera. If you press the 0 on your keyboard, this is the camera perspective. So when we render an object, this is what will be shown here, right? So right now our object, so we can actually select objects in camera view. So let's select our image, well, our object. Right now it's in camera view, and let's move it to the center. So we press G, we can move it to the center. So whatever is in camera view will be rendered. So if our object was out here, nothing will be shown once we render it. So if you do include other objects here in Blender, make sure it is in camera view. So to summarize, press 0 to actually get into camera view, and make sure the objects that you want are in the camera view. So if we render this again, look at that, it's actually in the center. Now that you've illuminated our red blood cell, we can now focus on changing up the background. So to do this, we're going to first get back to our default view. So press Escape. Okay, next we're going to think of another object to add. And we're going to add in a plane. So we're going to go to Add, and the shortcut is Shift A, remember? So we hit Shift A, and we go Mesh, and we add a plane. So we're going to first make the floor of our object. So let's first drag that down, and then we use the scroll wheel to see the perspective, and look how this is on the top. We want it on the bottom, right? And then we're just going to go up and just going to expand that out. We're going to make a floor, change this angle. So all you want to do is actually make our plane on the bottom, right? That's all you need to do. So remember how I mentioned the importance of our camera. So let's switch to our camera view, which is press 0. Okay, so here we can see that if we render it, we will have the floor covered, but these two sides will be still grey. So what can we do? Well, we can either generate a wall here and another wall here. So we have 3 walls. Alternatively, if you want to, like a big shortcut, just generate one huge wall and to cover up this grey space, right? Either one works. So to show you, let's first exit from our camera view. Okay, now we can either add in another object or copy this. So to copy an object, we can do Shift D, right? And then this will be attached to our mouse. So let's move it up. There we go. Here we have our copied plane. So let's just set that down first, and let's go back to camera view. So right now this wall is blocking our camera. So let's get out of this. So remember how I taught you how to rotate? This is where rotation comes in. Now we press R to rotate, and then we can just rotate our plane. So it's fairly wonky, right? You want some more control. So let's go back to it originally. So just right click, because I don't want to confirm anything. So I'm going to press R and then press an axis. So let's say X, right? I want to lock in on this X axis, and then we can just rotate purely on our X axis, right? How cool is that? So that way we have more control. So let's set this down by left clicking. There we go. So this is fairly straight. And all we have to do now is actually move it across. So to do that, we're going to press G to move it, and we're just going to move it across here. So let's take a look again in our camera view. Alright, so as you can see, there's a bit missing, but we can still move objects when we're in camera view. So whilst this is still selected, I can then press G again and just move it in to block it up. There we go. So let's exit. Now let's copy this one, Shift D. And what we're going to do is rotate it to fit here. So let's press R again, and let's lock it in on the Z axis. So let's move it across, line it up. There we go. So let's move our scroll wheel, go up, bird's eye view, and let's just press G to move, and we're just going to move it here. So camera view again, let's have a look. Look at that. We have our 3 walls. So it's time to render. Let's see what happens. Alrighty, there we go. You've now made our red blood cell and you've contrasted it with a nice white. So congratulations. And this concludes the tutorial series on making a red blood cell in Blender. Thanks for watching.